There's a side to this conversation that I did not necessarily consider. I saw a comment from an audience member. They said articles are now coming out that Xbox is working on handhelds, and people are starting to say that that Xbox is leaving the console gaming market. Well, I have to ask a few questions here. I mean, I'm not saying that you're wrong. I'm not saying that the articles are right. And Sandman, shout out to you. You said this. You said, I see Xbox trying to get out of the console market, doing more acquisitions and making PlayStation heavily reliant on Xbox software. There are a few questions I want to ask just to make sure that we can understand what the ramifications of all of this are. So one very important thing that we first have to go ahead and take into account is Jez Corden wrote the article, which he titled as an exclusive, and he says, Xbox's new hardware plans begin with gaming handhelds set for later this year with full next-gen consoles targeting 2027. When you read the article, you realize that what he's talking about is pretty much third-party OEM stuff. Probably manufacturers like Acer, Dell, Lenovo, and the others will get in on this particular paradigm. You can go ahead and read a lot of it. It just is, a lot of what he's been digging in, finding the name of the project, and basically he's saying think Lenovo Razer, but basically an Xbox branded gaming handheld surprisingly slated for 2025 if plans are met. Codename Keenan. Now, the way this handheld is going to work, if it's going to behave like all these, it's just going to have a traditional Xbox launcher that's going to be able to give you access to your Xbox games. And most of those games are probably games that will be playable on the PC platform. Maybe it's just an Xbox branded handheld that doesn't have any access into the console. And then as the console's coming around, there are probably ideas that you can probably start saying you would see. However, I want to go back to your question, Sandman, or to your statement where you said that you see them trying to get out of the console market. I don't understand. If they're trying to get out of the console market, my question to you is, how many acquisitions can they make that would bring them close to projected $5 billion a year? Let me show you Game Pass projections. Right now, there are projections that Game Pass is expected to make $5.5 billion in 2025. How many acquisitions can they execute on that's going to bring them a chunk of that $5.5 billion? If you can answer this question, then you will be on the money that they are moving or trying to get out of the console market. I've never seen a $1 trillion company try to lose money. You know what I mean? I don't know of any. Maybe some of the multi-billion dollar companies may be fooling themselves or pretending like they don't need money, like PlayStation. But Xbox is not in that category. This is the company that literally looked at the console and just walked across piles and piles of consoles onto the other side and is going to launch 12 games on the other platform in 2025. I don't see this company that's pretty much removed the entire, holds that were holding the whole console industry. You know what I mean? Abandoning $5.5 billion possible projection. Now, they may not hit $5.5 billion in 2025. But if they inch closer to it, then the farther they, move away from abandoning the console platform. Does that make sense? So if, say, they were looking at $5.5 billion and all they could muster was a measly 3.9. You know what I mean? Like, crud. Darn. Knee slapper. It's still a few more $100 million pulling them away from that idea of abandoning consoles. The second layer to this is, right now, having thought about the architecture of the Xbox Series consoles, I don't know if you guys know, the Xbox Series consoles is designed in a way that it's locked. I think Xbox, Microsoft can open it with a specialized, set of software tools and such. They can open it up to be able to have a more compatible layer. They can do the work to do it. But what if, when they design the next hardware, they don't limit it as they did with the Xbox Series X and Xbox Series S consoles? What if they just go ahead and just open it up and you can get in like you do with dev mode, but instead you now have access to the full-blown Xbox hardware? This is going to create a conundrum Because I don't think Microsoft wants to have a hand directly in making an Xbox device that they're going to give you direct access to Steam. I don't think they want to do that right off the bat. I think what they want to do, this is my opinion, guys. Just, bear with me. I think what they want to do is they want to put it in the hands of other people. Just stick with me for a moment. Let me give you an example. So they make these OEM partner devices, right? It's got an Xbox branding. It opens up. It's got Game Pass. Game Pass. It's got their Xbox gaming app, right? When you fire it up, it looks something maybe like this. Let me go ahead and show you guys the Xbox app here. You can just scroll with with the controller, highlight stuff, maybe home, blah blah blah, just like the Steam Deck interface, right? But then when you close out of this stuff, you eventually get a Windows platform of some kind. This is Windows Desktop, where you can then access the internet, you can then access Steam on this handheld device. But on their console, it may become kind of this direct sabotage type thing where if they go ahead and implement something like this, they may look really weird. So they'll just leave it where you can get into developer mode. You can install Windows if you want. And then now you have access to the hardware itself. And the hardware can go wherever the heck you want it to go. Just like they have done, or the OEM manufacturers have done, but they designed their hardware in a way that their hardware is not limiting for Windows. Their current Xbox Series S and X hardware, it limits Windows. It runs a version of Windows 10, but they've also designed a few things like the USB drive and a few other things to only be able to read specific, kinds of hardware and specific kind of file sets, just from what I've been looking at lately. I think this puts them in a much stronger position when it comes to the console. So when I put these two things together, the fact that they're projecting $5.5 billion for Game Pass and probably will fall short, but if you fall short of $5.5 billion, it's still a lot of money. And the fact that they can get a console and a handheld using OEM partners to come out with very, very pricey models so that it's not like, okay, we're going to be worried about the subsidized hardware in this case. We don't want to worry about that. We only want to make our own hardware that we already have our agreements with AMD. We've picked out our components, our possibilities, and so on and so forth. And at the end of the day, we're just going to leave that particular system. So what will happen is that particular system, because it's Microsoft, it will have all the drivers that you need. Here's one thing about, installing Windows on a device, right? You got to be able to do everything else. Like, once you install the operating system, you got to be able to work with your sound, your videos, all that stuff. It's got to be working very well. So you need audio, you need compatibility with controllers and all of this stuff, because your Xbox controller, yes, it will work with Windows, so you don't have any problem there. There's already built-in drivers to be able to work with them, right? But then the other side would just have to basically, once you install Windows, connect to the internet, and it would natively have those drivers available. Microsoft is going to have to provide that library of drivers ready to go. Also display drivers as well. And the reason I'm saying this is not because this has not been done. This has actually been executed with pristine, in my opinion anyways, with pristine, the heck, I can't talk. Hold on, it's Steam Deck Windows drivers, right? They already they put some resources out here, and you can go in there. If you install Windows on your Steam Deck, which you can then go into Steam Deck Windows resources, and you can download the AMD drivers, the APU driver, the SD card reader, the Wi-Fi, the Bluetooth, and all that. Because again, the front end Xbox interface already is written and is working in collaboration with all of its devices. I think this is probably what Xbox has the ability to do with a little bit of mea culpa. And with all of these possibilities, and then, some people have said maybe they just want, an interface where they can just, click a button and switch. I don't know if Xbox is going to make it that easy for y'all. If you guys want to have free online play, you got to do a little bit of work. They may go that route. But some people have said, maybe they want to get an interface where they can just switch to Windows and switch to whatever. Okay, maybe Xbox might do that. Right? But it doesn't still account for, them just abandoning billions of dollars on the table. So they are inherently now in a position where they see that they need the console platform. So instead of basically sitting there and making archaic ancient hardware, why not just innovate and be the first to come to the market with really cool stuff? This particular season, even PlayStation understands that the innovation and the technological advancement is also attractive. So what are they doing? They're bringing things like PSSR. And then you saw this interview with Mark Cerny or whatever it is, talking about FSR 4. They are trying to bring technological attractions to their platform. Whether or not it's working, some people are not really concerned. They just think it's the best thing that PlayStation has to offer. They're going to get it. They also want you on the Xbox side to be aware that this is the best thing that Xbox can offer. And if it has the added benefit as well of what Windows has, even that makes a little bit more sense now, because now you are interested because you know via Windows you can get PlayStation's games. At this point, Xbox is still circling PlayStation, is infused in PlayStation, is above and beneath and surrounding PlayStation in every possible metric. Because PlayStation will need PC. It's a checkmate more than anything else. It's the ultimate hardware checkmate. I can't emphasize enough. If they do this, it is the ultimate checkmate on PlayStation, because what would happen is PlayStation may say, oh, you know what? We're not bringing our games out on PC. Fine. Keep them on PlayStation. See what happens. We know that they cannot afford to do that with their first-party games. Or they just don't make first-party games and just chill with the third-party thing, which, again, will probably drive the proposition of people making their way to Xbox, because Xbox doesn't give you any guarantees as to when you might get their games. And who's to say that you're going to get their games, next generation? I mean, it's when they want. They can sit it out. So that's the thing. They have sitting out power, where they can just sit there and just let PlayStation just do what they want and just sit there and just get, big fat accounts that Windows is bringing in and all. They can just sit there. It's a very weird place for PlayStation to be. I think they pushed too hard. In the Xbox One generation, they pushed so hard, about got this company out of business. And this company got a CEO that was very keen on ensuring that they would stay in gaming. And then they got somebody who had gamer mind and strategy, Phil Spencer. And many people don't really realize, what's going on. We'll see, though. This is all speculation. Talk to me in the comment section. Thanks for watching the video. Appreciate you guys' time and audience. And hopefully we'll talk pretty soon in another one. Peace out.